So I'm Tammy Williams Pittman, and how are you making your civic impact? Well, through the seal of Civic Readiness, we are educating and motivating young people to find their voice. We are their role models, so why not be their mentors? Someone did it for us, so we are paying forward. We have 3 segments today that are filled with civic leaders who have worked from the ground up, grassroots up, on issues that you don't even take notice to in the community, but their force is right behind it. Whether it's the traffic light being put up that takes years through studies for something tragic to happen, or you have young people running for school board, winning with their motivational speeches, dance parties, or you have civil rights icons like Fred Brewington, Aubrey Phillips, who did the work. They lived through the civil rights, they lived through the 80s, they know what it is, they know the struggles, and they also want to make sure that the future generations have the tools that they need and someone to pass the torch to. For our first segment, we have Aubrey Phillips and Fred Brewington, 2 amazing civil rights leaders in their own right, who taught me so much about not only community, but how to take community issues and transform them into policy initiatives. In our second segment, we have an amazing community leader that saw the need of the community, like traffic lights or stop signs, you name it, slow down signs, the 20 miles an hour reflectors on the ground in the community. Saw the need, met with officials to get it done. Why? Because we saw harm, kids either being hurt or tragically being killed. Then we also have 2 amazing young women who will be discussing role modeling. How do we get young people engaged? How is social media impacting young people? Where do young people get their news from? Where can we connect what is misinformation, disinformation? How can we get young people to know the difference? So we're going to have 2 young ladies, Stephanie Douglas and Tamar Bailey, talk about how they see the world, how they connect with young people, and how young people can make a difference and stay engaged. And then lastly, but not least, engaging with these 2 young women, not only on how Stephanie ran her campaign for school board, but also how Tamar is making a difference by bringing more young people in to do civic actions, not only in the community, but maybe they're away at college and you're thinking about those things and you're just like, well, I'm in the seal of Civic Readiness. It's a high school program or it's a junior high school program. No, you can take this work with you when you go to college. You can take this work with you when you go to graduate school. It doesn't stop. We want young people to stay engaged as they grow and progress through life, and then pass the torch to the next generation. So yes, you can make a difference, and I am hoping that having these conversations with these change agents, that you make the change and you be the change that you want to see in your community. Thank you. I'm Tammy Williams, and I am so excited to be talking to 2 gentlemen that are making their civic impact. And what have we been discussing so far? My young people, is that you have to get up and do something. So we want to not only give you inspiration and give you that motivation and encouragement that you are doing something amazing and you can do something. Don't be shy, okay? Don't be shy. You can get out there and make a difference. I'm with my dad, Aubrey Phillips, who is not only a community leader, the president of Elmont Parkhurst Civic Association, but he is someone who taught me about how to vote, what is redistricting, and why the census even matters. And that's something that you and I have been talking about for a while. Then I'm with my other dad, who is a civil rights giant, okay, in his own right. If you ever want to know about Dr. King, John R. Lewis, who else have we talked about in classes? Martin Luther King, John R. Lewis, Barack Obama, Eric Holder. You have Fred Brewington. So I'm going to just ask them a few questions, and hopefully, like they inspired me and my millennial generation, they will inspire the next generation, which is the Gen Z's, X's, Y's, I'm the alphabet soup. So, Mr. Phillips, my first question to you is, what motivates you to speak up about issues in the community?
Oh my goodness, what motivates me to speak up about issues? I think it's the fact that every morning when I wake up, I take with me something my mother, told me, which is you need to make sure that you leave this place a better place than you found it. And so what causes me to wake up every day and get that phone call and to respond to a civic resident's concern is the fact that I live there. They live there. And if we're going to build civil society, then we have to build organizations around civil society. And right now, you said it, I'm the president of the Parkhurst Civic Association. And as president of the Parkhurst Civic Association, I have not just the obligation, but really this burning desire to make sure that the Parkhurst Civic Association leads the way, not just on the issues, the day-to-day issues, is the garbage picked up, or not just that, but to lead the way in our thought processes. So I try to hopefully be a thought leader for the Parkhurst Civic Association also.
Love that, thought leader. What I have been talking to students about, and this is students on Long Island and beyond, is not only putting that thought, but also thinking globally. When you think, how can you make that difference?
Well, one of the things that the Parkhurst Civic Association is engaged in right now is this seal of civic readiness. So my vice president and I, Lori Hollop, shout out to Lori, she and I have actually spent hours at Elmont Memorial High School going through social studies course programs, and we talked to the students about things as mundane but as obscure as why their windows are double paned. We live close to an airport, and it was a civic action that caused those windows to be double paned so that they don't get interrupted through the days. So they come to school every day. They don't even know that somebody did that so that they can be in the quiet. And so what we're trying to do as part of the Seal of Civic Readiness is to bring life to it. We want to make sure that they know that this journey never ends. Because one of the good news about my friend, she went to Elmont Memorial High School. She's a lifelong resident. I think she's lived there for 60-something years. So she walked those halls as a student, and now she's back as an adult, as a community leader, talking to students. It's almost like having a conversation with herself when she was young.
And her daughter is in my program, in my class.
There you go.
And I'm going to pivot to the legendary. Listen, if you want to know who Fred Brewington is, just Google, okay? Just Google. When I'm talking about you standing on the shoulders of giants, this is Thurgood Marshall and reincarnated. Can you just please share with me what motivates you to speak up for our community?
First, I want to say thank you for inviting me to be here with you. Motivation comes in my life. I mean, I'm a man of faith, and I am oftentimes driven by the question that I ask almost every day, which is, what next, God? But there's also a motivation and understanding from whence I've come and from whence we've come as a community. The importance of understanding that people died, that we might be able to have the right to vote, that we could be participants in the community the way that we want to participate. And when we don't take advantage of that, we're not really doing homage to our ancestors. People came as unwilling immigrants to America as slaves in the bottom of a boat. Nearly 6 million were lost or more in the Middle Passage. And when we think about those souls and the people that then refused to relent with regard to being beaten and having their spirits broken, we do a disservice when we don't stand up and understand that there is the concept of kunta kinte in all of us. So what motivates me? What motivates me is the understanding that the responsibility is being passed on to us. It's being passed on to Aubrey, yourself, your students, to make a difference in this world that will not just be short shrift. It's going to be long lasting. And the way we do that is by making sure that when we get up every day, we remember that somebody stood in front of a hose so that the right to vote might be made available to every one of us right now. And when we don't do that, then we're really not giving them the benefit of their sacrifice, because we are the beneficiaries.
Thank you so much. What I have discussed thus far is not only the civil rights movement. We took it back to 1865, the what happened after the Civil War, Reconstruction. One of the questions I pose to students through the Seal of Civic Readiness is, when did Black women get the right to vote? And they were telling me, oh, you have the 13th Amendment, which means freedom. You have the 14th Amendment, which means we have our rights. Everyone has to be treated fairly. But then we have the 15th that gave the right to vote. And I said, but again, the question is, when did Black women get the right to vote? And there's a pause. I said, Black men got the right to vote after the Civil War. And no time in history like then did they serve in so many offices. Now, Black women, they said, oh, the Voting Rights Act. And I said, what is under attack today?
Right. The Voting Rights Act is completely under attack. I mean, we know that the vestiges of the Voting Rights Act is just what remains. Section 2, which is the section that deals with a number of components of being able to test whether or not a jurisdiction has implemented discriminatory actions that cause the right to vote to be damaged, forfeited, or stressed. Exists. But when we look at the other sections, Section 5 is enumerated under Section 4, which was totally wiped out, which dealt with pre-clearance, whether or not because of a past history of discrimination, that area, that geographic area, needed to be pre-cleared in order to change anything in its voting structure by the Justice Department. Now, we know in 2025, the Justice Department ain't what it used to be. But the reality is that without those protections and those hard-fought protections, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is not what it was at one time. And that's why in New York State, it's important for us to understand the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act is probably one of the most prolific and important pieces of legislation that's ever come down in the country for an individual state. We recently tried a case with regard to Nassau County to change the legislative lines under that Voting Rights Act. And I'll just tell you, it was like just a step back in time to know that we had the ability to prove a case and show statistically that the impact on communities was real. And that we really have to struggle with that under the federal law now. So the state law is something that we've learned to depend on for that purpose.
And when you mentioned the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act, Georgia actually has the Seal of Civic Readiness. However, speaking to students down in Georgia, they had no idea about not only redistricting, gerrymandering, or the fact of the bill. And that New York has been the first state to implement this bill, which should be national. It should be national. Nobody should be denied or discriminated based on ethnicity, language, race, where they live. And speaking to students, soon your social media is going to determine how you practice your voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be another criteria. It's not only age. It's not only your zip code. It's going to that's what you like on Twitter. Oh, that's what you like on Instagram. Okay, we're going to carve you out and you're not going to have too much say. So students, not only through the seal of civic readiness, is finding out the reality of the world, and it's best to learn it now while you're young. But they're learning that there are solutions, because as I'm going through the journey of the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, to every single law that has been passed that was ignored to give people of color the right to vote in practice, not measuring, like you said, the beans and the jars and the marbles in the jars, but that they have this, like, they have a duty and a responsibility.
I think that's an important word, duty. I think when you listen to my colleague, well, not my colleague, certainly Fred, when you listen to Fred, who has practiced in this field forever, I come to this conversation as a reasonably recent immigrant, right? The 60s, I was living thousands of miles away from the United States. And when I came to this country, I came with an appreciation, at least an academic appreciation, for what it means to be an American. This is something I studied as a kid. And I find that as we push forward, one of the things we have to learn is that the harder you push, the harder to push back. And right now, we are in pushback. And the pushback is toxic. And we need to not just, it can't be just conversations with young people. It's got to be action with young people.
Yes.
Because one of the sinister things about redistricting and one of the sinister things about gerrymandering is that when you wake up the next morning after it happens, the sun shines, the car starts, the traffic is the same, and you actually will go to the polling station and you will vote. It doesn't seem to affect the mechanics of life going forward. So what I think my job is to actually, my job really is to actually get people to think beyond the mechanics. I like to say, life is poetry. Otherwise, what is it? Otherwise, it's just a series of inhalations and exhalations. So if you can get to the point where life is not just about the things that you do daily, but that it's about these bigger things, then maybe you can get to a point where you appreciate this democracy that we live in. Because the fact that tomorrow or when we leave this studio, the fact that, my car's going to be over there, it'll operate exactly the same way as it did, doesn't mean that things are the same.
There are students who come up to me that are very shy, are very timid, and sometimes lack the confidence to get out there. And I told them that I was the shyest person in the world.
Oh, no.
My teacher told my mom, my elementary school teacher told my mom, you have to get her involved in something, whether it's dance, whether it's something cultural, because she is so smart, but she refuses to speak up. And my mom put me in this program called NIA, and it meant purpose. Hopefully I'm saying it right, that it meant purpose. But it gave purpose for us because we didn't learn a lot about our culture and all the greats that came before us. And this is where I learned about Eyes on the Prize.
Mhm.
And I watched that series on PBS like it was Saturday morning cartoon. And what was done to civil rights leaders and those just trying to stand up for their freedoms. I was like, oh, one day I'm going to fight in the street. Yeah, I'm going to fight for people, and never stopped from there. So to my shy students, I just want you, if you can share, who inspired you?
Many people know that as a young lad, Dr. King rubbed my head in Lakeview. I mean, I was standing outside the old Woodfield Road School, and as he went by going through Lakeview, and I won't tell the whole story, but he reached down and rubbed my head, and I didn't really put a lot of stock in that at that point, but I remember the day that he was assassinated. And I came home and I found my mother sobbing at the dining room table. And I just couldn't fathom what was going on. And these were her words. Her words were, "They just killed our last best chance." And from that day on, I understood what hope was in a community. I understood how we could be propelled forward by a spirit. So when I think about the people that kind of lay that foundation, Dr. King is definitely one of them. Thurgood Marshall, definitely, because Thurgood Marshall and a little known figure that was part of that was Charles Hamilton Houston, who actually was the architect of Brown versus Board of Education. And all those individuals that dared to step up. I mean, they do include people like Jesse Jackson. They do include, Medgar Evers. They do include Shirley Chisholm. They do include both women and men that understood that they needed to make a sacrifice that things might be better. And the reason why that's important for anybody that wants to make our world better, because we do have to take a very big world view. When it's not the small world that it once was.
Yeah.
That we have to also stand up and stand out. So for your shy students, you're talking to a man, or I'm talking to you right now, who had a terrible speech impediment as a third and fourth grader. And overcame that when somebody just looked at me and decided to put stock in me. So when we lift each other up and we look at each other in a real sense that everybody can make that contribution, then we start to look at those people that did it before, and we see that they made the contributions. Now, there are many people that pack lunches. There are many people that didn't show up on the front line because somebody had to be taking care of children who weren't on the front line with them. Someone else had to make sure that bail was paid. Someone had to make the phone calls to get people out. And so whether or not we go from Montgomery to Memphis in our history and look at those realities, we have to understand that we have a role that we all can play. And that's what community is all about. And once we come together as community, we are stronger than any form of guerrilla tape.
Hello. Gave me chills. Oh, gosh. Okay. I don't know if y'all felt that. I felt the ancestors. Oh, thank you so much. Well, Mr. Phillips.
I listen, I'm going to echo. I'm just going to say echo to something that Fred just said. I wasn't in the United States when Dr. King died. I was in Guyana. And his death rang true there. As loudly as it, I'm sure, was ringing through here. It was as if just something fell out from under people. I used to spend a lot of time at a library in Guyana. It was the John F. Kennedy Library in Guyana. So I used to read my Jet magazines and things like that there as I was envisioning what it would be like to come to America. So the thing that inspired me was in part Dr. King through the writings in places like Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine, and so forth, because there was no television where I was at the time. So my journey to what inspires me and what really makes me speak out started in Guyana. And so it's an international kind of journey. So I came here, and then I always tell people that I am a citizen by choice, not by accident. I'm a citizen by choice. I took a test, or I should have taken a test. I took a test, and I had to learn a few things about what it meant to be an American. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I had one teacher in high school. And that teacher decided that I needed to take English. And I had to take speech classes because I had an accent. Mm. And that incensed me. Because what I learned later in life is that my English was fine, that my accent was not a barrier to success, but that what was my barrier to success was probably his vision of what I was. And so those are the things that inspire me. Some of it are just the hard work of, like my mother, for instance. You know, my mother was an ER nurse, you know, and she would leave the house. So we have these interesting language today about latchkey kids and so forth. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is, for me, I mean, I was coming home and she was leaving for work. So there was this 2-hour gap. But that 2-hour gap wasn't without responsibility. Because by the end of that 2-hour gap, there were things that had to be done. You know, your homework had to be finished, yes, and so forth. And the homework was left on the table. So when she came in at 12 at night, she would open that book
and check it.
And check it. And if it wasn't done, you'd be up at 2 a.m. So it wasn't, you know, we didn't have this language around latchkey children and things like that. We didn't have that because in the end, the biggest inspiration that caused me to continue speaking publicly in spite of, you know, being told that I couldn't, or I wasn't sounding right, was my mother. Was my mother. Inspiration. She was just, you can do whatever it is you set your mind to do, and just go forward and do it. And she was a no excuses kind of lady. So I'm just, you know, in forever debt to my mom.
Forever in debt. Well, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us and encouraging the next generation to pick up the torch, because you all are passing the torch. I appreciate it. We want young people to get out there and do something. In the words of Michelle Obama, get up and do something. And they can find us, like I said, as mentors to help them with their civic projects. This is a great initiative by the state of New York that has been implemented in 6 other states. Mm-hmm. You know, let's get it together. Yeah. All right, make your civic impact.
Right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tammy, for having us. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Seal of Civic Readiness. How are you making your impact? I have the esteemed pleasure of welcoming 2 phenomenal women who have been the force to be reckoned with in the community of Elmont and beyond, because the Seal of Civic Readiness is not only in the state of New York, but it has branched out into other states, which is amazing. We would want it in all 50 states. What are we doing? We are educating young people from when they're young how to make their civic impact from K to 12. How do you get out there in a community? Who do you connect with when you don't know what you don't know? So I have Mimi Pierre-Johnson and I have Miss Tamar. I'm just going to say Miss Tam, my other Tammy.
Yes.
Okay. Who, this is an intergenerational relationship. This is mom and daughter duo. If both of them are in the room, you got a problem. Okay. Because the mic is going to be hot. We know how to speak within 3 minutes at a public hearing. Okay. And they know how to bring out their facts. Okay. And they have their receipts.
Yeah.
So my question to my phenomenal Mimi, just introduce yourself. And please tell me, where do I start? How are you making your civic impact? And take it globally as well.
Wow. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Tammy, for having me on. I feel very humbled that you would even think of helping, to participate in this. I think the first thing we always have to think about are who are the people that are being harmed? Who are the people that would benefit from anything civically that we work on? And I think that's what is the most important thing, not only locally, but globally, because I always like to say, if something is happening in your community, find the root. And that's what has, for me, has brought me to Haiti to find out why are people leaving such a beautiful island.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
As a community organizer, you get to hear people's stories when you're on the ground. You get to know what are their hurt, what are their pain, what is it that they are looking for to make their lives better. And if you live on an island that, 70 degrees all the time, beautiful sun, the beaches, white sand beaches, what would make you want to leave and come here and not have a job, possibly undocumented? How are you going to compare the two? What is the story? So I started to understand how the politics are in Haiti. Like, what is it that's stopping people from enjoying their lives? And I found a whole lot. And what is it that makes people stay here in spite of what's happening in their hometown? And that led me to not only Haitians, but all immigrants and first generation born here, because there's still that tie. So yeah.
Well, listen, you're not only acting local, but thinking globally. And I was saying while we were off camera, a young lady that is participating in the Seal of Civic Readiness came up to me after I shared a story about you not only putting in the work for, years and years to get the traffic pattern changed in the local community, the local community of Elmont, but shared that it was young Black bodies that were getting harmed, hurt, seriously injured, and died. And why is it that it takes someone passing and then another person getting harmed and then a group of children getting mulled over for action to happen? And I explained to them the patterns were calming. Okay, you slow down, you at a light. Okay, great. You're going to get to where you need to go. And this young lady said, 10 days after you told us that story and you told us about the individuals who got a traffic light put up, the traffic light wasn't fully functioning yet. It was up, but not blinking. And my brother and I were about to pass and cross the street, and we almost got hit by a car right by that same spot. And I thought about the story you said about the young people who crossed and got harmed, and we backed up. And I was just like, I have to tell Mimi that story when she comes, that your work was not in vain. And we want young people to see something, say something, but act on it.
That's right. That's right. And the reason why I thought about children going home and going to school and having to think about, am I going to get hit by a car? I didn't think that was something that sat well with me. And I'll never forget October 31st when we were in the car and watching 4 children get hit. My husband was going to work one morning, and one of the young ladies who passed away, and he says, "Oh my God." And I just said to myself, something's not right. And so we often see things that doesn't sit right with us. but we have to always ask ourselves a question: am I able to do something about it? And I'll never forget the morning, and Tammy, you were there. I'll never forget the morning we decided we're going to get all the, powers that be, right, to take a walk down Dutch Broadway. And I remember saying, I live between a elementary school, a high school, and junior high school. When you stepped out, on the road, you don't know that. And we also live around major highways, and everybody has someplace to go at 7:00 in the morning, right? And everyone is speeding. And I said, no, you're going to take a walk. Make believe you're a student, and you're going to take a walk down Dutch Broadway. And I remember the DOT guy said to me, well, some of the schools are not on the main road. And I'll never forget it. I said, listen, if this was a more affluent town, one person died, everything would have been turned upside down.
Right now?
All right? We've had 4 children passed away for, traffic safety. And I said, so we're not here to just look. We're here to change the law.
That's right.
And we did it. And
right.
when I saw these, when I see these traffic lights going up, and our elected officials have taken the ball and ran with it, so there's extra ones now. But we didn't even have signage on the ground.
No.
And I said, no, I want to see 20 miles an hour on the ground. Mm-hmm. And, the left turning lights, I want that pattern to slow down. Mm-hmm. And what was amazing is some of the young people, our very first press conference, they were there with us. So, it's always something from the heart, and you have to think about people. Who is it harming? And once you can put those two things together, then it automatically will come for, those of us who want to see a better life for most people.
And a better life you have in your daughter, who's the mini me. Okay.
Yes.
Like I said, if it's a hot mic and you have to have someone speak at a town board hearing, I'm gonna have I'm calling you up.
Yes.
Okay. You bring receipts.
Yes.
So my questions, because of your we're that sandwich generation. Social media. Mm-hmm. My young people say I get my news from TikTok, and I just want to know. I asked this question: how does social media shape your understanding of civics?
So I would say, because we are that sandwich generation, I think on the traditional analog way of getting it through the news, so the news tends to kind of be neutral. It tends to if certain news stations, we're not going to name which news stations, also are not neutral, and they kind of are biased, where on TikTok, people are authentic and they show up as themselves. So for example, I have a history TikTok, right? And I tell the truth on there. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so people gravitate towards the truth and not a sanitized truth. And so people go to social media because, one, it's faster than the news, because the news tends to have to, put it through producers, and then they have to edit it, and they have to make it, like I said, sanitized, where if you want something raw, you can go right on TikTok. You can, I remember when Mark Zuckerberg was at the hearing, and on TikTok, people had it live. Also, you can search anything you want to look up, anything that's happening in the news, you can search it up and it'll be there. And what I find is that things usually hit TikTok first, and then Facebook, and then maybe 2-3 days later, the news. So it's just easier to just go on social media.
So in the study, because we did a community needs assessment first to figure out, what are the needs of youth, especially Black, Indigenous, people of color, my BIPOC youth. What are any misconceptions or misinformation, disinformation? And they said, we do get our information from social media. How do we know what is real news, and how do we know what is fake news?
So on Threads, I'm actually a community person on Threads. And so they do, on certain social media platforms, they do have people that they will ask, like, okay, you seem to post things that are true. Would you mind reviewing this? Or is this a right, is this a right definition of something, or they'll find an article, and so if someone posts something, then Meta, at least on Threads, will say, this may be false, but here's the right article. So that does happen, at least on Threads. And then I'm a community person that I review. So sometimes I'll go and I'll just review and I'll say, okay, they were right to correct that. And no, that's not the right correction. But there's still a lot more work to be done, especially when you're looking at, unfortunately, a lot of supremacists, they get away with a lot more online. So because I am a person that will report, I will block, I will report, and I don't play that. And there have been images, especially people get away with images more. So I've seen some very racist images shared as comments, and I'll report it, and they'll say, this doesn't go against our guidelines. And I'm like, this is clearly racist. So they do need to go after supremacists more, because there are people who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, especially Black, that get put in Facebook jail, Meta jail, or even for me, I was on, and this is why I say specifically Black. There are certain countries I do not even like to talk about on my TikTok. So I talked about Argentina. I think I did a video on the tango and how originally that was made by Black Argentinians that were enslaved, and it was a whole dance. And the reason why they called it tango is the way that they were locked up in their cells. And people can look up the research. People can research the history of Argentina and find out the racism, the whitewashing of and of the ethnic cleansing of Black people in that particular country. But I had people report my video and say it was false. It wasn't false. There was information. And I uploaded the video again, and then nothing happened. But you have a lot of people who are white supremacists that particularly go and look for when Black people, especially Black women, are saying things, and they will try to discredit and say, oh, this is false information. And they know to block the videos of Black people. But for some reason, for white supremacists, they allow them to spew hatred and make videos and post certain comments. But it's not fair treatment for them when people report what they're reporting as well. So when it comes to facts and not facts, that is the biggest issue that I see on social media. Obviously, there's other things, and it's a whole world on social media, because you have the FBAs and you have people who are saying Black people are not from Africa. They were always here, and that's a whole another huge thing. So now there's people that are now it's a whole rabbit hole that's happening online. And so my thing is just for people to do their diligent research before even going to social media. So, okay, just because someone has information doesn't mean that it is right. Doesn't mean that it is sound. And so that's one of the biggest things I would say before going down those deep dives.
Man.
Wow.
You see, and I was saying, my mama got me on TikTok, okay, because she would send me 1,000,001 videos, probably got 100 still in that inbox, and she's like, but you gotta go on there, and she sends me recipes, she sends me great history, great history, things I never known, so I appreciate her for that. I posted my first 2 videos to encourage people to get out and vote, and also talk about what voter suppression looks like through gerrymandering. And it in one day it got like 1,000 views. And I was like, oh.
And so that's the other thing about TikTok that I enjoy is that on formats of other social media, their algorithm is very it's not conducive. It's not really helping people. And this is why so many people were upset when this current administration tried to shut down TikTok. I get paid from TikTok, right? I need to post a little bit more. But TikTok not only pays you to go live, pays you to post, but once you get a certain amount of views and followers, right? But the algorithm is the less people you know that follows you, the more people that's going to watch your video, because their algorithm points to people who are interested in the things that you are posting.
Okay.
So if you are into government, if you are into civics or whatever your thing is, anybody that's into those types of things, your content is going to show on their page.
Okay.
So, but let's say Facebook is more friends and family based, and so you may not get as much views because your friends and family are not into that. They're into whatever else there. And so TikTok is a great platform to really get your information and your content out there, and for you to really grow as a content creator. That's one of the things I always tell people.
Yeah. My students, my graduate students would say, you're so funny in the classroom. You should put your sense of humor in teaching out on social media, because a lot of young people would benefit not only from learning about civics or politics, but also the voter suppression piece from humanistic storytelling. So I appreciate it. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. And please, if you can just say one thing that would motivate or build the confidence of young people to get out there and make a difference, what would you say?
They matter.
Yes.
They matter. Their thoughts matter. Their life experiences matter. Don't ever think that you're too young to teach. And I think that's lacking in our society, that, you're too young. What do you know? What experience do you have? But there are many things that we can learn from young people these days. There's so much you can learn.
Pablo Fieri.
Yes.
It's the co-teaching. It's the relationship.
Right.
We are co-learners in this.
And I love hearing from them. I always have young people around me. That's why they always think I'm much younger than I am.
I'm telling you. Well, you're going to stick around.
Thank you.
I just need you to stay with me. And thank you. Thank you so
Tammy.
much.
Thank
you.
All right.
Should I say something about some of the young people?
Oh, yeah.
I would say the revolutions have always been in the hands of the youth. If you look at Martin Luther King was only 25 years old when he started the bus boycott in Alabama with Rosa Parks. Both him and Malcolm X didn't even get to see 40. And so when you look at SNCC, when you look at every major revolution, it's always been the youth. It's always been the young people, because unfortunately, as we get older, we tend to get jaded. So the time is now for young people to really get civically engaged and active, because throughout time, it's always been the youth. So the time is now.
Time is now. I love it. You're going to stay with me. Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.
You got it. You got it. Welcome back to the Seal of Civic Readiness. And what is that? Is how are you making your impact? How do we get young people to get outside and make a difference? I am with, you don't understand. Let me tell you about this young lady. Now, I got a phone call to say there is another Tammy in the making who is running for school board in Elmont. And she is fierce. I said, what's her name? It was like Stephanie Douglas. And I said, okay, I'm gonna stroll on Instagram and let me try to find her. And when I read up on your stance, and also knowing that you are a Elmont alumni, and your passion is education and uplifting the youth, I said, I have to have her. And of course, my guest, my right hand, someone who helped us through the mentoring girls program, Girls Pride, who was my visual, my photographer, videographer. We have Miss Tamar, Tammy, Bailey. That's just Miss Bailey. Okay. You both are not only, like I said, we're the sandwich generation, and we watched our parents fight and struggle and fulfill their dreams of not only home ownership, but also crossing over into a community like Elmont that was not always so friendly and inviting in their days, but we reaped that benefit of that struggle. Can you please just tell me, how are you making your civic impact? I already know you're board member, but just tell me a little bit about your journey.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. So I'm really big on it takes a village, it takes a community. I had the honor of growing up in Elmont, started the youth group at my church, did an etiquette course, was the president at a local elementary when I was there, and really just came up and went through the system where we give back on service, right? All of what I do and all of what I believe in is the sense of community, the sense of giving back, the sense of turning back and uplifting those behind you. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, I was like, you know what, maybe I should run for the school board position. I'm currently an educator, principal at a school not too far, pursuing my doctorate in educational leadership as well, and really believe in the youth. I truly believe that kids are our future, and just the power that they can really change anything, do anything they set their minds to, and really wanted to ensure that I'm educating myself, giving back to the overall community, but making sure that I'm becoming the best version of who I am. I felt as though I was educating and impacting students in other communities, but I didn't feel as though I was making it in the community that poured so much into me, right? I was involved in just a number of things, but I moved to California for some time after Howard, and I was like, I'm going to come back, and I just feel like I focused so much on work and advancing and being like, let me get this degree and that certification. And I was like, how do I give back and pour in my skills and resources within the community? So decided to run for the school board position. Super excited for the results of winning. The sense of community and collaboration, everyone coming together really showed up. And that was a story in itself, which we can get to momentarily. But that has been the journey.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And like when Tammy and I had the Girls Pride Project and watched these young ladies who were very shy. Mm-hmm. We did like a fashion show. Yes. They came out their shell. They did poetry. Yes. They came out their shell. It was amazing to see the vision and live through the vision. So my question for this clip is, modeling makes it real. So successful stories of community collaboration. When you think about community collaboration, how can you reinforce to students that civic actions can create visible change? Because we want them to get out there and be the change, but through community collaboration, how can you?
I have two stories. So it's funny, one of our Girls Pride girls were on a panel at the library on Monday. We had an HBCU panel with Jamaica Square, and she was there. And so that's modeling, right? Because she was one of our girls who were shy, and she was on the panel. And then second, when I was working at Elmont, some of my kids, I would talk to them and just tell them the real, and we would talk politics. And this generation, Gen Z, they are so well informed that they asked to create a civic. So we created a youth civic with our kids. And even to this day, now they're in college, and most of them go to HBCUs. And if not in the HBCU, they're majoring in political science upstate and Dartmouth. And they said, we want to come back in the summer. And so last year we did a theater workshop, and even though it wasn't civic, but it was just them giving back to the community. So we actually did, for the entire month of July 2024, we did a workshop with the kids from 4th grade to 8th grade, and I just supervised them, and they got the kids, and we worked, and I said, okay, then how are you going to do this? But they wanted to pour back into the kids because they saw some people from their community pouring back into them. Yes. So, and they didn't have to. At 18, 19 years old, they can have a summer job, but they, for free, took their time and made sure to pour into children. So it's that modeling and seeing that if someone cared about me, I should care about someone else, and paying it forward. And that's how I learned. I was a Girl Scout. I remember Carl McCall. I was like 9, 10 years old when he was running for governor, and my mother brought me along with making phone calls, and I was the president of my church choir, and I did Girls Pride, and I that's all I know. All I know is community. And so for me,
doing Juneteenth
yes,
as well.
yes, which Stephanie was on our planning committee, and so all I know is giving back and the love for my community. And so because that was modeled to me, it's like second nature for me to implement that for the next generation. And like I said, with my kids, they didn't know, like, it wasn't, I just was having conversation with them, and it piqued their interest. Like, I want to know more. How can I get more involved in the community? How can, like, I'm really upset about this, and I'm not learning this in school. So what adults can I talk to that's going to talk to me about what's going on in the world around me? So, yeah.
And it's like I said, it's the perfect intergenerational conversation, because we learn so much from our older adults, right? It's their wisdom, but then it's our energy.
Yes.
And it's how that story is being passed.
Yes.
Which is important. So I'm so happy that youth are coming to you. Even creating a youth civic program is amazing. So yes, this is collaboration. And now I can tell the youth there are organizations in the community that's tailored to you. For your voice to be heard, and your voice matters. I love it. Collaboration, civic action, creating visible change. What advice can you give the next generation?
Absolutely. I want to piggyback off of what Tammy said, just around it being modeled and our parents really leading the way, right? We saw ourselves when our parents were saying, come to this civic meeting, right? Come to this event. Let's give back. Let's do service, right? And I think it's important that our youth understands and sees themselves in these roles. There's often times where it's like, oh, well, they'll take care of it, or someone else will do it. But really understand the impact of the roles that they have as leaders. And it's important that they have individuals who are in these roles who look like them, who believe in them, that they feel comfortable approaching and going to and saying, hey, I'm not really sure how to do this, or can you actually show me or support me along the way? I definitely think that advice that I would give youth is be the change you want to be. It is easy you see stuff on social media. There's always different causes and different problems. And it's easy to be like, well, that's not my problem. Right. But it's important to pause and take a stand and say, you know what, I have to make a difference here. And it may not be someone who's young, or someone who's a woman, or someone who has done this before. Right. But understanding that they can make it happen. An activity that is done with my students, every year we'll do a civic readiness project. So we just did something for the veterans. We did a mental health fair last week, where students decided to, of course, find something that they were passionate about. And I think as students, they often feel as though their voices are not enough. They don't feel heard, or adults will shut down their ideas. And students really need to know that their voices have so much power.
Thank you.
And there are moments where, the adults will be like, well, stay in a child's place.
Oh, hello.
But we are in a society where now we need kids to speak up, to stand up, to advocate. And when they come together and work together, there's so much change that can happen. When we think of like the Black Panther movement, or, the sit-ins, or just different those were students who took a stand, and really ensuring that when we think of like the freedom riders, I don't know that students these days, or children these days, really understand that there's value in their voices. There's value in the work that they do. You don't have to be a certain age. You don't have to be a certain gender, height, or anything else. You just have to come together and build that sense of community and team, and know that it won't be easy. No one's saying it's easy, right? There's always going to be someone else who's been in the position, or who seems as though they may be doing a better job. But there's something that you bring to the table, and especially with our youth, it's empowering them and pouring into them, and them believing that I actually can and will do this, just with that sense of support and just belief in themselves, and support from the community.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, it touches me to know that I'm passing the torch to these young women because nobody would know I'm like 60 years old. No, I'm only playing. That's how I feel sometimes. But it's that little girl who comes up to you and said, what you said to me today really, really got to me.
Yeah.
And again, it's not in the classroom
Yeah.
that students come up to me, but they be like, hi, Miss Tammy. Hi, Miss Tammy, in the hallway. Oh, that's Miss Tammy. Oh, and you know, and all the girls would gather in one space and just huddle and feel like they can do something. So just to see that you both being young, beautiful, Black, bold women with voices is empowering to the next generation. And again, I want to see the seal of civic readiness not only spread and scale up and grow within our community in Elmont and on Long Island, but let's get this in some other states. You know, we have it in Arizona, it's in California, it's in Nevada, it's in Georgia. Oh my gosh, that's my next trip. When I went to Clark Atlanta and stood there in front of Morehouse and Spelman, I'm like, this is the Mecca. This is where the student movement, civil rights movement began. These 3 schools. And then to hear students in Georgia say, what is redistricting? What is gerrymandering? What John Lewis voting rights? What?
It's crazy.
I'm like, okay, my generation is not doing their job.
Yeah. Can I just say something?
Yes.
You just reminded me. So 2 of my kids, I call them my kids. Still, I know they're like 20 now, but whatever. One goes to Hampton, one goes to Morehouse. And last year they were doing GOTV and in Hampton and Morehouse. And they would call me and I saw their social media posts and I was so proud of them. And before they left to go to school, they wanted to do like a party, like how can we get people registered to vote? And they were excited about it because their generation, like you said, like we need to be out there more, really getting these children engaged. So they had an early 2000s, because I told them about Vote or Die, how a rapper that shall not be named had a campaign, Vote or Die, and everybody wore the Vote or Die shirts, and I was sending the pictures of like Paris Hilton and all this. So we got shirts that said Vote or Die, made by one of the kids' mothers, and then it was everyone dressed like it's the 2000s, and they had like little mocktails, like encouraging people to vote. And I said, what moves your generation? And so they were like, partying. I said, okay, so let's do that. And we got people to register to vote. So I just wanted to,
like a day party.
Yes, it was a day party.
It.
So I think also with our generation, we have to figure out they're not like us. We grew up analog and digitally. They've only known digital. They've only known. So we have to figure out how can we reach the youth, and if that's parties, if that's doing a 2000s party and making it this way, and then getting really getting the kids active in getting out the vote that way, then so be it. But yeah, so when you said that reminded me. So yeah,
I really love that you mentioned that, because during my campaign we had like a party to the polls, and I think with our generation it's the power of social media, the power of everyone getting out and just reposting and sharing, understanding. It's like, hey, let's all come together for this party to the polls, or let's come together to ensure that we're all doing a park cleanup together, and you're sharing information, you're bringing out a few friends. There's really power in our youth and in us coming together, and it's not going to be the same exact way that our parents did it a few years ago, but it's like, how do we change that system? How do we make sure that individuals are coming out and being supportive? And
that digital movement, that footprint, when you see other people out there doing the work or making it a family event, you're like, hold on, I gotta be there, because they got the mom, the dad, the sisters, the brother. It's everybody is out here. I'm missing the party. It's party to the polls. I like that. I like those ideas. Okay, so young people, you hear that? We gonna get you out dancing in the streets. Go get one of those. If it's like the Eastern Parkway, vibes, get the truck out. That was fun though. That's fun though. And get you out there and motivated. So now we got you out there and motivated. How do we keep you engaged? Because this I can't name the past elections, but this past 2025 election, more young people turned out than any demographics.
Mm-hmm. And I want to say, Madami, some people have a problem with him, but he's my age. Well, I'm older than him by 5 months. Okay. And I think the biggest difference in getting people engaged and why his campaign was so successful, and I'm looking at his campaign, I'm looking at Trump's campaign, I'm looking at Bernie Sanders' campaign. The three campaigns had something in common. It was about the people. It was about getting people who people seem to exclude often and making them feel like they had a voice, whether we agree with that voice or we don't. And I think that is how we are going to get people engaged and active. And I think with both parties, I think it's more so people are kind of stuck in the past of this is the way to do it. And well, I'm better than this person. But it's about what do the people need? People are hurting. People are just desperate nowadays. Mental health, suicide rates are up, and people are struggling to just put meals on their table. Mm-hmm. So we have to figure out how can we speak to those people, and how can people feel like I have a voice to help my community. I have a voice to really speak about what's going on today. And that's what's going to get people engaged. Something that's fresh, something that's, okay, this is not how it's normally done. This is not a part of the establishment. People are tired of the establishment. Mm-hmm. They want to know that they are heard. They want to know that their needs are going to be met. And that is how you kind of strike up a movement of people wanting to get involved. So, yeah.
Love it.
I agree. I think people want to see you and they want to feel you, mm-hmm. right? It's easy to run a campaign and just be a name on a piece of paper, mm-hmm. but really understanding that all groups want to feel a part of the process, right? Mm-hmm. Regardless of, any sort of marginalized group wants to know that you care, mm-hmm. whether we're going into nursing homes, whether you're going to a prison, or whether you're going to different schools, communities, restaurants, mm-hmm. right? Everyone wants to know that, you know what, my vote counts. Mm-hmm, I'm a mm-hmm. part of this. I am still heard, because mm-hmm. oftentimes, especially where we are now, it's like so many individuals are just, my vote doesn't count, right? They're not talking about me. This doesn't impact me. Mm-hmm. But we're seeing from local elections that it absolutely does.
Local,
right? So,
local.
Yes. Yep. So really ensuring that we're reaching the people and they feel connected with the individuals. And once you win, making sure that you're still going back to bring up those behind you and ensure that their voices are heard. Because oftentimes we're at the tables and it's like, well, this group does not matter. So I think making sure that you're bringing them to the table with you and speaking on their behalf.
Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. It's the saying I love to say is act local, think global. It's all local. Mm-hmm. If I see an elected official in a coffee shop or at the grocery store, or I'm just like, oh man, good thing I took my rollers out my hair. I was just running to go get coffee or
Don't
my
go
bagel.
in the supermarket.
The supermarket is like, oh, was not expecting to see you, but hey, you pop up. Yeah. But it's a beautiful thing when you keep all of the issues or politics local, and you do the work. You do the constituent services, you do client services, you meet people where they are, and don't forget that those who you see on your way up is the same people you're going to see on your way down. So always be humble, be humble. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. My last message to the youth that are on the fence about getting out there and making their voices heard, you have 2 examples, okay? That it's possible. You make the time. I appreciate you all coming through, and you have busy schedules, but you make the time and you give back because you're paying it forward because somebody did it for you. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. The Seal of Civic Readiness, again, is in the state of New York. Please don't be on the fence about it. It's a beautiful program. We are going to expand it in all of the other states here in America, okay, and beyond. Thank you, ladies. that concludes our conversation. How are you making your civic impact? We had amazing civil leaders, pillars in our community, share through storytelling their lived experience on what they did to make a difference, what they're doing to make a difference, and how you can make a difference in your community. It doesn't stop here. We're passing the torch to you. So take the older people's wisdom and take your energy, work together to make a difference, not only locally, but on the state level, the federal level, and in our global community as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.